Great, and we will start with you, Jefferson. If you'll introduce yourself, what school you're from, and ask your question for Craig.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Craig Brewer. My name is Jefferson Noel. I'm a professor at Florida Memorial University, South Florida's only HBCU. I must say I really enjoyed the movie. It was excellent. And one of my favorite scenes from the movie was when King Jofer, hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, King Jofer, he had a funeral for himself while he was still alive. And that was an amazing scene to me because there's a phrase that people never get the flowers while they could still smell them.
Right.
And the fact that he was able to get the flowers and receive all of the honor and accolades that was due to his name while he was still alive, I thought that was a very, very powerful scene. Unfortunately, he passed away during the funeral.
Yep.
But I still thought it was heartwarming to see him be honored in that way. So my question is, what was it like shooting that scene, and what impact did you expect to have from the audience, on the audience?
Well, first of all, I hope that this is a trend that takes off. I hope this year and maybe next year, more people are going to start just having their funerals now, before they pass away, because of everything that you just said. I would say that there's kind of two parts of it that are really exciting, at least for me, in making the funeral sequence. One was, I don't think you got to say anything more than En Vogue and Salt and Pepper to everybody in the cast showed up to watch them. Everyone. It was like we had our own little concert while they were performing. Morgan Freeman, it was, and then crescendoing into Gladys Knight, there was a performance. And by the way, I'm hoping that this is all for when after the movie, like maybe edit so we can save this as like, if you go to broadcast before, if you go to a publication before, just cut out all the cameos I'm talking about. But there was this lively production that was happening on set, right? But then there was something much more tender that I got to experience because James Earl Jones couldn't travel to Atlanta to film that sequence. So I actually had to go to New York and film just his part of the scenes.
Wow.
And I tell people, like, I lost my father from a heart attack at age 49, and James Earl Jones was like one of his favorite actors, and there was just something very emotional for me in the middle of this comedy that, I got to have this moment where he's essentially, James Earl was essentially acting with me. I was off camera being Eddie's part. And when he said those three lines, "I've had a wonderful time. Remember what I've told you. I'm going to die now." It's kind of like the perfect thing a parent can say to a child before they go. "I've had a great time. Just try to remember some of the things I taught you, and I'm going to go." And I don't know what it was, but I got really choked up. I kind of had a moment where I could kind of say goodbye to my dad, maybe, but it was. It was Mufasa. It was Darth Vader. It was James Earl Jones. And so every time I look at that scene, I'm filled with a lot of emotion, because there's all this great dancing and celebration. But I also know that he's talking to me in that scene.
Yeah. It was powerful. It was powerful. Thank you so much for that.
I'm glad you liked it.
So next question will be from Susan Georges.
Hi,
Hey, Susan.
very nice to meet you. I'm Susan Georges from Webster University, specifically representing the Galaxy Radio. And you guys have a lot of references to the first movie, just all throughout the sequel. But there were some scenes where you guys recreated the nightclub scenes from the 80s. How did you guys go about recreating that set, getting the actors in costumes and stuff like that?
Well, I've been very happy to find that there's been people that have been really fooled by all of that. And I'd stay up like late at night worrying about those sequences because, you know, we wanted to create the bar and make it look exactly like it was back in 1988, even down to like, there's like even a black and white print that was above the bar that we tried to make it just the same checkered look as the first movie. But knowing that we were going to have to take the footage from the first movie when Akeem and Semi are kind of doing their speed dating, even to that moment where Semi does a spit gag, you know, he spits out his drink, but then the very next shot is Arsenio, and we put him in the exact same outfit he was wearing, but we then de-aged him. And a lot of people have come up to me saying like they didn't know that we, you know, they were thinking that was maybe like footage that was never used in the first film. But we actually did a little bit of computer magic on Eddie and Arsenio, even though it didn't take much. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those guys recently, but they don't age, it seems like. You know, there's it goes to show you there's some cliches that are true. But it was a very fun scene to do, because I mean there's moments where Arsenio is dressed like he was back in the day, and he's just like, this is a really odd thing for me to be doing in my life, you know, returning to the scene of the crime, if you will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next question will be from Carolyn.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I'm Carolyn. I'm at UT Austin reporting for the Daily Texan. And I wanted
You like my Alamo Draft House poster behind me?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice that.
It's all right. Go on. Didn't mean to stop you.
No, you're good. And I wanted to know what scenes were the most different from your initial vision of them.
You mean like what did I plan, and then what did I ultimately get, and where it was a little different from what I planned?
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, I don't know if I have any like scenes, but one thing that was a nice surprise to me was what happens a lot when you work with actors is that they bring something that's different than what you thought. And I think for me, the biggest surprise for me in this movie was what Leslie Jones brought to a character that could have been played very arch. She could have just been a crude joke machine. But Leslie did something with the role where she brought love with her. You know, she's showing up in this castle. She knows that she had a baby with this woman's husband, you know, and somehow she's bringing this attitude like, it's fine, let's be friends, this is gonna work, you know, isn't this wonderful, you know? And I thought I gotta be honest with you, I didn't go that deep into that kind of acceptance and love with her character as Leslie did. And to me, that was the big joyous difference. Usually when you get asked this question, you're let down. You're like, oh, I had this big idea, or I had this particular thing that I wanted to pull off, but we couldn't do it, or we didn't have time. But I was pleasantly surprised that this one was better than what I had planned. And it's all because of Leslie. It's what she brought.
Yeah, thank you. I loved watching her. When I noticed her, I was like, oh, this just got so much better. I love it.
Good, good.
Our next question will come from Charles.
Hi.
Hey, Charles.
This film has so many amazing different sequences in it that I think stay true to the original film and to make an entire new fan base. But, you know, over this past decade, we've seen a million sequels and a million remakes. So what to you makes this film worth having a sequel? And what did you do to make this film stand out from the original?
Well, I think that first and foremost, I think it's a great opportunity that it's 30 some odd years later. Mostly when sequels come out, it's usually within a couple of years of the first movie. And that's for financial reasons. They made a big hit and they want to come out with another one. But it's nice to see that Akeem and Lisa have that they're like the audience that grew up on Coming to America. I was in high school when I saw Coming to America. I now have kids that are in high school. Eddie, who plays Akeem, is in his mid-20s and Coming to America, but now Eddie Murphy has 10 kids. He's a different man. And when you get to be a parent and you get to have to like deal with life, some of the things that you were very idealistic about when you were younger, they tend to blunt and fade away because you're trying to create like a protective bubble around everything that you love. That also happens with Akeem and Lisa in this movie, and their bubble gets popped, and really that's kind of like what I felt was like the thing that we could bring that's a little bit new. And it was also a bit risky in places because there's times that Akeem needs to disappoint us because he's not necessarily doing the right thing all the time, and he's got to listen to his family a little bit or deal with this disruption. But for me, I felt, you spoke about sequences. I felt that the fun of this movie not taking place in Queens, but actually in Zamunda, meant that I could mine some of what I saw in the original movie where, animals are walking around the palace, completely, untethered, and music numbers that Paula Abdul would do a big, dance number just to introduce one princess to another prince is considered the norm in Zamunda. To me, I was like, okay, hold my beer. Watch what I'm gonna take this Prince song and I'm gonna give Oha like this moment that people are gonna remember. We can do Zamunda right. So I hope that people feel that we love the original movie and that we're trying to do things that people who loved and appreciated the first movie would recognize in this movie. But we're hoping that what we can bring to the movie is something that the very audience core is maybe dealing with in their life and that we've been dealing with in the last couple of years, which is, maybe it's time for some of us old heads to like stop talking about the way it was and start listening to our kids and being okay with some change.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I let me know what nebula you are currently in. It's sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's a great background.
Thank you very much. It's better than my kitchen.
I understand.
And our next question will come from Taylor.
Hey, Taylor.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. So I'm here from Fordham University. I'm representing the Fordham Ram, and I just wanted to ask you this question. So in today's political climate, it is more important than ever to like amplify Black voices. Many scenes in this movie, especially Lavelle's job interview, touch upon this. How did you ensure that Coming to America would help you do so?
It's funny, if you would ask Eddie Murphy that question, he feels that the movie itself is the Black voice, that back in 1988 there was never an all Black cast that in a movie that was a hit around the world. Now we've had Black Panther, we've had plenty of movies in the last couple of decades that have changed that, but back in the day the movie itself was the statement, and the movie itself did not make any statements about race. I didn't feel that really we could get away with a movie that would take place in today's day and not deal with that obvious elephant in the room, which is that it still exists. Even the barbershop guys talk about, the Nazis are back, but now they dress like the Best Boy Geek Squad. He's bringing up things that you're like, are we still talking about Nazis? You know what I mean? Are we still here? And hopefully the joke